Welcome to the first session of .NET Core overview. I am Sushil from Coded Node, and we'll go through that why .NET Core is will be used and what it is. So why .NET Core? So .NET Core is nothing but just a development platform, one more development platform you can say. But how it is different from .NET Framework? Then it's open source. Its code is maintained at GitHub. So here is the URL. And the very important aspect is that it is cross-platform. So when I say cross-platform, that the application built on .NET Core can seamlessly work on Linux environment and Mac OS as well with Windows. So, but it was not possible in .NET Framework, which was the application built on .NET Framework or web application built on .NET Framework. It was completely dependent on Windows platform. Uh, okay, so that was the restriction in .NET Framework, but in .NET Core, it is truly cross-platform, and you can develop applications for all the applications, all the platform or web applications targeting all the popular servers. Okay, so development platform it is. What do you mean by that? So you can use .NET Core for any kind of software application development, you can build a web application as well. You can build REST APIs using .NET Core. You can build Windows desktop application. So these are the different kind of softwares you can build using .NET Core. Open source. What is open source? So its code is available on GitHub. You can pull the code and look into the source code, what is happening. And next, what you can do with it is that you can go to issues if you want to contribute to this project. You can do that. So this is open source. Let's see at a high level architecture. So what are the components of .NET Core? And okay, so underlying there will be platform. It can be Windows, it can be Linux, and it can be Mac OS. So for each and every platform you have a .NET Core runtime. For that, .NET Core runtime is just is the interface between your application and platform, you can say. The memory management, garbage collection, all such things are done by .NET Core runtime. So this is a very important component of .NET Core, which is .NET Core runtime. Next, you have some .NET Core framework libraries. What will be the use? So it will have the APIs for IO, perform some input-output functions like reading a file, outputting uh, a particular file, then serialization, deserialization. Then you will need some data types to store some uh, temporarily store some values while your application is running. For that you have primitive data type. So a number of things you will get as a library is available, and under the .NET Core framework libraries. Next, on top of this, you have various frameworks available to develop various kind of applications. So if you want to develop web apps, web applications, then you will have to you go for ASP.NET Core platform. uh, so it gives you all the features required to handle HTTP request and responses and anything related to that. If you want to develop a desktop application, you will have to go for UWP framework, which is Universal Windows Platform. If you want to build some IoT applications, you will have to go for Tizen framework. So here you can see this is the architecture or the high level components of .NET Core. So Previously what was there was CLR, CLS, CTS, also all those were components of .NET framework, but those components were only available for Windows platform, and that is what the restriction was, restricting a developer to create an application which is Windows specific, not the Linux or Mac OS. But now that is not the case in .NET Core. Okay, so development environment. So what do you need for to set up a development environment? So first of all, you need to understand that .NET Core supports these three programming languages: C Sharp, VB, and F Sharp only. Then what are the IDEs you will have in market to develop the code? So you have Visual Studio Code, which is an open source IDE. uh, and then you have Visual Studio 2019 community, and other Visual Studios can be also be used. So these are the two popular IDEs which are used for development of .NET Core applications. So as I said in previous slide, so you have frameworks available for called as ASP.NET Core, UWP, that is your Universal Windows Platform, Tizen framework. So according to your needs, you will create the project against a framework. Next is that from where you will get the SDK, so that is called as .NET Core SDK. So whenever you want to develop an application, so your machine or your development machine must have .NET Core SDK installed on on that particular machine, and that's it. So once you have .NET Core SDK installed, you can start programming using simple notepad also, and using the .NET command line interface you can build it, you can do whatever you want. You don't need Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code for this. You will need Visual Studio Code only when you want a full-fledged IDE, but no, specifically .NET Core doesn't need them. So but what is the prerequisite for development is the .NET Core SDK. So once you install .NET Core SDK, your development machine will have .NET Core runtime, .NET and ASP.NET Core frameworks installed on your machine, and along with that you will get a .NET CLI. So that is nothing but a .NET command line interface with which is a .NET tool available for creating application, building it, deploying against some platform, so everything. So we will see in upcoming sessions how .NET tool is helpful for us. The mentioned URL is the URL from where you will get the .NET Core SDK latest stable version. Okay, so any questions, you can subscribe the channel for upcoming sessions coming up, and you can post your questions related to architecture of .NET Core, or like why do you need .NET Core itself when you have .NET Framework, if it is not clear to you, in comment section. And if you prefer any descriptive email and private email of your questionnaire, you can go ahead and shoot a mail on codednode@gmail.com. So thanks guys. uh, Thank you.